And so that's kind of why we're here, and see what the Cooperative Extension Service might be interested in doing and how they might be interested in doing that. So we have a deck of slides that we prepared. So we will go ahead and maybe we should go around and introduce ourselves. That would probably be a good idea. And so I'm Steve Turner. I'm here at the Southern Rural Development Center. Rachel Welburn is with us here also from the Southern Rural Development Center. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm John Green. I'm a professor of sociology at the University of Mississippi and serve as the director for the Center for Population Studies and State Data Center of Mississippi.
Okay, Matt.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Gary Lemmy, our director, but I'm a state specialist for community workforce leadership and economic development at Auburn University, serving Alabama.
Okay, Randy.
Randy Taylor. I'm the Ag and Natural Resource Program Leader at Oklahoma State University.
And Dave.
I'm Dave Scheidler. I'm the Community and Economic Development Extension Specialist for Oklahoma at Oklahoma State.
Okay. Susan.
Good morning. I'm Susan Kelly, District Director for NC State University, and I told our director, Rich Bonanno, I would be happy to sit in on this meeting for him.
Okay, Stacy.
Stacy McCullough, representing the University of Arkansas System Division of Ag Cooperative Extension Service in Arkansas.
Robert.
Robert Burns, Dean and Director for the University of Tennessee Extension.
Nick.
Nick Place and Dr. Sakib Mukhtar from the University of Florida IFAS Extension.
Demona. Demona is in the Student Center, so she might be muted. Demona is the Extension Director at Oklahoma State. Demona?
Yes. Hi. I'm gonna remute because I am in the student union between meetings. Thanks.
Okay. And Giselle?
Hi, I'm on behalf of Dr. Gutter, and I'm the Public Health Program Manager for UF Extension.
Okay, and that's who we have right now. So I'm gonna let John go ahead and Rachel, if you'll put up the deck of slides, we'll go ahead and start the webinar.
Yep, and I just want to note that we are recording this session so that we can share it with those that weren't able to join us.
Very good, John.
All right. Well, again, good morning, everyone, and I appreciate that we're able to meet with you this morning. And as Steve said, we're just got some prepared slides. I'm going to talk primarily about some of the things happening with the census, some of which you may already know, but to bring us all to the same page. And then we're going to talk about ways that we can connect extension with the 2020 census initiatives, and Steve will lead that. So Rachel, if you'll take us to the next slide. So hopefully everyone knows, but first of all, to understand that the decennial census is required as part of the U.S. Constitution, that we're supposed to do a decennial census every 10 years by definition, obviously. And as Steve mentioned at the beginning, the 2020 census, our official census day, so to speak, is April 1st. It'll actually start earlier than that with Alaska much earlier in the year because of the challenges of more remote areas. But obviously we have less than a year in which we're working to really do census outreach, education, and promotion. For people who are familiar with the census of the past, there's still, oftentimes confusion about what kind of forms are used. We now use exclusively what's called the short form questionnaire that asks about age and sex, race, ethnicity, housing tenure, and relationship to householder. As you know, we have there potentially that there could be other questions, and the big issue was the citizenship question, which is currently off of the census. I did make a note there that U.S. territories will receive a longer version. And that longer version is what used to be called the the long version for everyone, which was a sample. But now that longer version that would go to a sample of households in the past is replaced with the American Community Survey. And so for the states, everyone would participate using this short form questionnaire. And you may remember from 2010, basically it was advertised as 10 questions, 10 minutes. The big change for this 2020 census is this will be the first time where most people would be targeted to participate online. And so basically the strategy will be that most households, there are some exceptions in places that are deemed hard to count, but for most of America, households will get a card in the mail that'll tell them about the census and how they can participate, and have some information that they'll use to be able to participate online. And so that'll be the biggest push. But people will also be able to request to complete over the telephone or via mail. And then if people still don't participate from a housing unit, then they'll send out the enumerators. So that's the biggest change that we're really looking at for 2020. Next slide. So in terms of the uses of census data, of course, and the reason why it's required in the Constitution is for political apportionment, specifically with the House of Representatives. But census data are used for political apportionment and districting at all levels of government, from local government to the national. But it's also used for a wide array of other uses that are of concern for rural development, including determining program eligibility for a wide range of federal programs, and as well as many states have adopted the use of census data for program eligibility, how we allocate government funding for those types of programs, as well as for all kinds of entitlement programs. What many people don't understand is that that census data are also used to define what we consider rural or urban, and that these determinations are important for all of those other uses of the data. And so the Census Bureau, the Office of Management and Budget, and the Department of Agriculture all have particular definitions of rural that are important for a variety of programming purposes, and of course also for research. And then of course we use the data for all types of other uses for research and planning. An example would be is that our Center for Population Studies, we work with planning and development districts across the state of Mississippi to be able to utilize these data for, all kinds of planning, from sewer and water to business planning. And the idea is that all of that's used for decision making. Next slide. So one of the reasons that we wanted to do this webinar and the follow-up meeting is really focused on how do we maximize participation. The goal of the census is to count every person living in the U.S. once and in the right place. And the concern is that we have some places, including rural areas, that are less likely to participate. In the 2010 census and previous censuses, one of the ways in which we measure that is through the mail response rate. And so, I mentioned that with 2020, the big push is going to be for online participation. But 2010 and 2000 was the same. The major push was to participate via mail. And so the response rate to those mailings is considered one of the best indicators for an active response. And so what you see here is when we look at the states, if we compare the states for 2010, the mail response rate was about 73%. And now it's important to understand in looking at this graphic that doesn't mean only 73% of Americans participated in the census or American households. It means that 73% participated in the mail version. But if we compare counties between metro and non-metro counties across the country, you see that metro counties, households were more likely to participate, and with non-metro counties, we had an average of 68%. Now, these did range pretty widely, But nonetheless, that it's a concern for non-metro areas. We really want to focus more attention on these places. Next slide. So a few of the different tools that we use in addition to just looking at those kinds of comparisons is actually mapping these. And we have two major tools that the Census Bureau has put together that are really useful in this regard. One you see listed there is the 2010 census participation rates, where you can access the data. You can also map the data, so you can look within your states to see, how does your state compare to other states, but also counties within the state, and even down to the census tract level, which are subdivisions of counties. And then another tool that's called the Response Outreach Area Mapper, or ROAM for short, provides with census tract level data. It's taken the 2010 rates, but coupled them with several other indicators. Census Bureau has created what they call the low response score. And then they've also added to the 2010 participation rates the response rates to the American Community Survey, and then overlaid a variety of social and demographic characteristics to help people plan out what are the places within their state, within their local communities where participation is predicted to be low. Next slide. So this just gives you just an example of what's available through that ROAM mapper, and so this just shows a visual you see of the country, and basically concern about the low responses, where we might see particularly high low responses in the darker blue. And you see that's many of the communities across the southern region that we're particularly concerned about, and so that's the reason for bringing us together on this initiative. So a wide variety of researchers have been giving attention to why there might be hard to count places. And part of it is a combination of the place, for example, whether it's isolated, but also the characteristics of the people in those places. And so we have listed here some examples of some of the points of concern. Interestingly, if you look at the social characteristics and demographic characteristics in rural places, that for the most part, taking away the issue of isolation, we should have higher response rates, because some of these other factors that make a difference are more prevalent in urbanized areas. But poverty is one of the real factors that, mixed with rural isolation, makes a difference. But these are some of the things that are being given attention. You see complex living arrangements. So, for example, if you have families that where the parents are divorced, and a child might go back and forth between parents, as well as children who might be living with grandparents, those are considered complex living arrangements. Age, younger people are less likely to participate, and then much more elderly people that might be isolated or homebound are less likely to participate. And then interestingly, infants are particularly likely to be undercounted, that people seem somewhat confused on whether or not to count newborns. There's a concern across different racial and ethnic groups, and of course, language and literacy. And then one of the factors that we're giving a lot of attention to now, because of the emphasis on online participation, is computer and broadband internet access. And so looking at different indicators of that access, places where we think that people have limited access, we might need to do more work in terms of outreach. And then finally, distrust and concern for confidentiality as one of the major concerns. And in fact, there have been several surveys conducted trying to highlight why people participate or don't participate, and distrust is often at the top of that list. People aren't quite sure what the census is about. They're not sure how the information is handled, what protections there are, And you know, now in an era of big data and concern over cybersecurity, we anticipate that there'll be even more concern. Next slide. So some of the things that can be done to address this that we've been working on with the Southern Rural Development Center, the State Data Center of Mississippi, that's a part of the center that I'm involved with, and we've worked with other partners, including within Mississippi, with the Mississippi Kids Count program. We've been working to conduct research on several of these factors that we've mentioned from national studies and from other states, but also then trying to figure out what applies or what might be unique in communities. Just as an example, we did a series of meetings in 3 of the places in Mississippi that we think are likely to have an undercount, and invited really a diverse array of people, from Head Start teachers to extension staff to even local clergy, and discussed with them these issues and what they thought would be messages, et cetera, that would resonate in their community. And some of the things that we've been learning from this work and with our collaborators in other places is that, first of all, as I previously mentioned, limited knowledge about the census. It's interesting also in the context of, you know, we've seen a lot of press around the controversy on the citizenship question, but as part of that, there hasn't been great information about other aspects of the census. And so we haven't seen a lot of attention to that. And since it only happens every 10 years, it's kind of off people's radar. We also have identified a need for community level action. We're partnering with the Census Bureau, and I'll say a little bit about state data centers momentarily, but we work through our state data centers in all of the states with the Census Bureau. And but you know, the Census Bureau will only have so many resources and so many mechanisms by which they'll be able to promote participation. And so we see the real need for, you know, taking on more ownership locally and within states to ensure an accurate count. I already mentioned the concern over privacy and use of data, but we've had people raise issues of concern of, you know, whether or not they're, say, a student who defaulted on student loan debt, can they participate in the census? Those are the types of questions that are arising that need attention for people to understand what types of privacy protections are in place, and of course we can help answer those. Also, that literacy levels need to be accounted for in messaging. You know, in terms of what type of information we're putting out there, and also how we're presenting it visually, what words we're using, and so forth. And then also to focus the message on key stakeholder groups. And that's one of the things that we're really interested in collaboration with Extension around the 2020 census, is given the diverse stakeholder groups that Extension is involved with, that we could focus some of the messages to resonate. Next slide. So this is just a list of some of the things that can be done. And then Steve's going to talk to us more about ideas related to Extension. But obviously we can do more outreach and engagement with community leaders, and also what we think of as quote unquote non-traditional stakeholders. So, you know, going beyond our planning and development districts and those sort of organizations, and say, how do we work with a more diverse array? Some of the resources that can be used are complete count committees, which is either at a statewide level or even locally. Communities and organizations can form complete count committees and register with the Census Bureau, which gives them access to all types of information, documents. The Census Bureau has partnership specialists that can come to meetings and that sort of thing. And so forming a complete count committee is one of the ways to be very highly engaged. Also, organizations can become formal partners with the Census Bureau for the 2020 census. And that can include universities, nonprofit organizations, and even businesses who want to develop a formal partnership to promote the 2020 census. Also, there are some pre-made promotional materials that are available online, a wide variety of flyers and so forth that can be used. And then the last point that I said I would come back to are the state data centers. So many of you may work with state data centers, but if not, to know that this is a resource. Every state in the country and territories have a state data center, which is an affiliation between the state and the U.S. Census Bureau. They can be based in a wide variety of organizations. So our state data center is based at the University of Mississippi. This is actually our 41st year hosting the center. But in other states, it might be a part of a state agency, part of state government. In some places, it's even a nonprofit organization. But the state data centers really act as liaisons between data users in your state and the Census Bureau. They help with filling data requests. They help by providing education around using a variety of census data, not just the decennial census, but all kinds of other data tools, the economic census, American Community Survey, and so forth. But then they are also charged with helping to promote census participation and doing education. And so obviously through our center, this is one of the ways that we're doing that is partnering with organizations like SRDC. But you can go, there's a state data center clearinghouse, and you can find the contact information for all state data centers if you're already not connected to them. And they can be a resource for outreach around 2020 census and other things that you might need. So I think it's there that we're going to turn over to Steve.
Right. Thank you, John. John's given you an overview kind of the census, and what I want to talk to you about is, why would extension, the Cooperative Extension Service, be interested in the census? What might happen with respect to extension, and then how would you go about if you decided to be like a partner? What would happen there? So let's talk about why. So as you could see, the map that you saw for undercounting, hard to count, it's called hard to count census tracts. And if you look at that map, and we'll have this deck of slides online so you can go back, and there is on that slide, there is a link to that map, so you can go in and look at your state and look at your counties. The undercount is prevalent in our southern states. If you look at persistent poverty in the South, it kind of follows that. But again, so if you're getting undercounted, but that's going to affect you in many, many ways as a state, and especially as a county and local district. So undercount is going to be important, and we're trying to just have another bullet in the arsenal of addressing that. The other thing is, because of extension's location in almost every county, and the other thing is extension is usually a trusted entity within those places. So John mentioned a distrust. Wherever you can get a trusted entity talking about the census, then that's probably a plus. The other thing is allocations. And when I look at allocations dependent on the census, in other words, federal government uses census data to allocate. What we're looking at there is 70% of federal allocations are dependent on the decennial census. So you can see a lot of that is Medicare, Medicaid, and quite a bit is USDA programs. The biggest one by far is the SNAP program, but the Cooperative Extension Service allocation is also dependent on a census count. So it's very much in our vested interest to have as accurate a count as possible. Other things are the WIC program, school lunch, breakfast, and 1890 payments. So there are more reasons why we should be interested in partnering, but those are some major ones. Next slide. So what can you do? What can Extension do? Or, you know, we're less than a year out. So one of the major things that we're interested in doing is just informing internally university and Extension faculty and staff. And when we say staff, that's like Dave and others. And faculty is like Dave and others. And then staff, we get down on the ground. I mean, we're at local levels there. So there needs to be something for local people to be able to use or to be informed about why this is important. And that will filter out into community leaders and organizations. Here in Mississippi, the Mississippi Farm Bureau is very interested in us preparing materials so that they can educate their membership. And I believe in every state there are organizations like that that are looking to either the Census Bureau or people like us in Extension and at the universities to help them and inform them. The other role is education. And John mentioned several barriers, so to speak, to participation. One of the things is addressing those barriers, especially privacy barriers. So someone might say, well, I don't want to participate because I don't want, you know, the government to know something. Well, it's not like your name is going to be associated with that information. So there's some things that we can do to allay some of those barriers and fears. And that's what Extension has done over the years for over 100 years. The other thing is we are very much tied to adult and youth populations. So when you think of the 4-H component of Extension, that's a very powerful population. And so there's the education there of 4-H youth and 4-H staff and 4-H faculty. And then, you know, within agriculture and natural resources, family and consumer science, and community development, all four of those areas reach out to adult sectors. But the real issue is this hard to count population. So again, if we can do anything to address the hard to count populations, then I think, you know, that's kind of where we are and what we're after. And as we mentioned, hard to count populations exist in each one of our states, and we can identify those places and maybe do some targeted programs there. So how? Well, one of the things that we're thinking about is developing one-page infographics that would be beneficial. Let's say you would have in your county extension office that would explain why the census is important. You know, just give some general information about it and your state. And then we could cater that to a particular state. There's lots of census information, but what we're looking for is if a state is interested, if a cooperative extension service in a particular state is interested in developing materials, then there's some steps that they have to go through. So for instance, if you want to be a partner, it's fairly simple. There's a one-page form you need to fill out, and we'll address that in our April meeting, or I can send that to you. And then you can put your logo on that infographic in conjunction with the Census 2020, which I think is a powerful tool. The other thing is within states and within the Extension service, there's a lot of communication outlets. So I mentioned the Extension physical offices. You can see social media, TV and radio, and other kinds of presentations. So again, it's July the 26th. So we're a ways away from April the 1st, but it will be here before we know it. And we need to be ready on January the 1st, 2020 to start addressing this issue. So that's kind of where we are. Next slide. Rachel.
Now, this really just addresses a little more of the logistics that are being planned for our next meeting. We'd like to have some face-to-face time to explore what are our regional opportunities in more depth. So we are tagging this on to the end of the program leadership meeting, PLN, because we felt like probably most people that would be really key from each of the universities will likely already be there. So we are looking at August the 22nd, which is that Thursday, staying together for the afternoon for this. So there's the meeting place, all of that information's on the PLN site, but you've got the direct hotel information there just in case you are not planning to attend. We'll be glad to give you the link to the PLN site if you haven't yet registered and want to come join for the whole thing. That's great. We did get an offer of some travel assistance through 4-H National Council, and they've given us just a fund of money that if someone has travel hardship, needs assistance, and of course, as I mentioned, some of you might already be there, but you may have to add another hotel night, or you may have to change travel arrangements that might cost you something, may have an extra meal or two involved, and so those kinds of things are issues that we could use this pot of money to help address. But we do need to know by August 2nd if you would like to have the travel assistance, because as I mentioned, it's a finite pool of money, so we're going to see how many people need the travel assistance and kind of what your needs are. So if you could let us know, hey, I would like it, this is how much money I think I'm going to need, and that'll let us figure out how we can disperse those funds that 4-H has promised to this. So would certainly appreciate that. My email address is there. You can email me, or if you're sending someone else, share this information. And then as Steve mentioned earlier, we're going to have the slide deck and this recording up so that you can also review this again and share that with anyone else that you want to in your state. So I will stop there and see if there are questions, discussion.
So I was on a call earlier today talking to some other states about what they're doing related to the census. And another thing that some states are exploring is, especially in our rural areas that maybe have limited access, is not just the education piece, but actually even opening up their county offices and letting people fill out their survey in the office. Just another access point. A lot of libraries are doing this, but as many opportunities for public spaces that can be made available, they're trying to do. So just something else to kind of add to the mix of possibilities.
Great. Good point. Thanks, Stacy.
I'll just say, connected to that, you know, one of the messages that we're trying to give to a lot of organizations, like you mentioned in that example with libraries and some nonprofits that have computer labs, say for youth development, is in addition to the value that they're contributing to, you know, better count for the census, it also may be a way to get people into their offices that might not otherwise come, and so that might be a selling point for, you know, for an extension office to say this is a way to really advertise our presence in the community.
So I'm just kind of curious, we do have a good mix of people on here from different states. How many of you, and some of you can just raise your hand if you got your camera on, but how many of your extension services already doing something? Y'all are already actively looking at this. How many of you are already there? So Alabama is, I don't see anybody else. And that's kind of what we found, because as we've had these conversations so far, we've only found a couple of states that really are already thinking about it. So it's good timing for us to meet together in August. Appreciate all of your interest today too, because that shows that we found something that's caught your attention and that you'd like to follow. So we appreciate your attendance today, and hopefully in August we can take this to the next step.
Rachel, you might also, I don't know if you've talked to the other centers, but the call I was on earlier was mostly North Central people, and it sounded like several of their states are either active on their state committees that are looking at it or are having some other conversations. So they may have some more examples that I may have zoned out for that could be something you want to determine.
Was this their program leader call?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nebraska, Missouri, it seems like there were one or two other states that had said that they were having, Trudy maybe in Kansas was saying that she was on a committee. I can't remember exactly who said what, but several states are at least looking at it individually, not as a coordinated effort.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting that some state governments have devoted quite a bit of resources to the census, and then a lot of states have committed very little. California is spending over 100 million state funds on the census, and then New York and some other states are spending quite a bit. Texas is spending zero. So at least presently. So it's kind of, it's kind of an interesting strategic behavior thing, because if you're undercounted, you might have less representatives, you might have less allocation, you might have less all kinds of things. So it only comes once every 10 years. And so that's why we're very interested in this. And as you can see, we're concentrating on the 13 southern states, and whatever we develop or whatever happens here will be shared with the other regions. But our concentration is on our 13 southern states.
Any other comments, questions? If not, if you would keep in mind the August 22nd meeting, you are invited. We would like to get an RSVP. There's no cost to this as far as the meeting itself, but we would kind of like to know how many people are coming so that we can make sure there's ample room and ample space in the room that we have. And if you or the person that you're sending needs assistance with travel, I do need to know that by August 2nd, which that's really close. So just let me know that, and then we'll begin working on those logistics.